And John Howard tonight on Andrew Bolt's program had some advice.
I am very sorry that this has happened, and I urge both parties to work overtime to put the coalition back together again, because all the history of Australia suggests that the glory days of the Liberal Party and the National Party, the Old Country Party, are when they are working together in government. My experience as a Liberal leader and as a coalition Prime Minister is that if you have a strong coalition and plenty of trust, you can resolve any policy difference.
Well, here's how I look at this. I don't blame the Nationals for what they have done. Do I think this is good? No. I think this is an absolute disaster. I think this is really, really poor. But in the end, it's actually the Nationals who are propping up the coalition right now, because the Liberals did so poorly during the election campaign, and it's actually the Nationals who did very well, other than the seat from the former Deputy leader, Perrin Davey. Other than that seat, they actually are propping up the coalition right now. The Nationals know what they stand for. They know what their policies are. Susan Lee came out last week after she was elected as Liberal leader, and she was asked about nuclear. She was asked about net zero by 2050, and she said, well, I need to consult with the party room. I'm not going to make a captain's pick. It didn't sound awfully convincing, albeit she'd only been in the job for a couple of hours, but it was not convincing to me. And if this is a serious Liberal Party, then they're going to have to put some serious policies together. Otherwise, the future of Conservative politics is going down the wayside.
No, look, I think we're being a bit unfair to Susan here. I actually think about where we are. Less than 3 weeks ago, the election was held. Her mother has tragically passed away. The Nationals have then come into the coalition agreement-making process with a list of 4 specific policy demands. They also want the ability for shadow ministers to break shadow ministerial solidarity and vote against the party on contentious issues. Now, I just think that is unprecedented, firstly, and also why now? Now, some in the Nationals are making the argument that if we don't assert this now, these policies aren't going to get up. But how can you really believe that? Even if you look at the numbers of the leadership battle, they were really close. I don't think the Liberal Party is ready to abandon nuclear or a range of those sort of regional Australian policies. So I just don't see why they've done this. I think it's caused so much more harm than good. And David Littleproud was questioned about this on Paul Murray tonight, and this is what he said.
With the circumstances that Susan had in terms of wanting to be able to announce a shadow cabinet, which meant a coalition agreement had to be done in the coming days, but not being able to give us that comfort or guarantee that those policies that we were looking at could be guaranteed, because she wanted to go through a longer, elongated period of policy formation that we couldn't sign up to it, because these are hard-fought wins that would change the lives of people in regional Australia.
But that period of policy formation was one of the key planks Susan Lee ran on when she became Liberal leader, because there was criticism of the last leader that decision-making was centralised, shadow ministers, backbenchers weren't consulted. Susan has been very focused in making sure those mistakes aren't repeated again. James, was there any point to this move?
OK, a couple of things I disagree with you on, Freya. Firstly, and I want to be careful with this because I don't want to be misinterpreted, everybody is very sad and sympathetic for Susan Lee that her mother passed away. That's a given. That's a terrible thing for any family to face. But I have a little bit of a problem with that being used as her mother just passed away. To be fair, she took on the leadership knowing her mother was in palliative care, I think with the understanding that her mother could pass at any moment. So I think you've got to weigh up, do I want to take on that position with my family facing this problem right now? If you take on the position, then you take on the position knowing full well you may have to deal with this while confronting that. I don't think you can use that as well, the Nationals should have been kinder and waited. I don't think this is a divorce, Freya. I think this is, both parties having some alone time while they work themselves out. And I just think...
It's not you, it's me.
Exactly.
It's not you, it's me. But hopefully we might reconcile later on,
and I'm sure they will. But how do you have a relationship with someone who's still trying to figure out who they are? And that's where the Liberal Party are at. They're not ruling anything in, not ruling anything out. they've got their feet firmly planted in mid-air.
Yeah.
How do you hold hands and walk with that?
I agree. And I honestly think this is a problem with the Liberal Party right now, is they do not know what their policies are, but the Nationals are full form. They're going, let's drop net zero by 2050, let's reintroduce nuclear. And what are the Liberals doing?
They're
figuring it out.
But that's the whole point of the party room. That's the whole point of having your shadow ministers. You then have those debates. I don't see why they couldn't do this in a couple months' time once those debates have actually been had. But bringing this now, it's just blowing the thing up before they've even got together.
But doesn't it suggest to you that there are too many moderates in the Liberal Party who do not support nuclear energy and do not support pulling out of the Paris Agreement? That is a problem here, because if you keep going down this track, the Libs are going to be in the wilderness for so many more years to come unless they have actual straightforward and straight down the line policies to differentiate
and the other issue I have is people saying, well, the Nats have blown up the coalition. No, the Liberals blew up the Liberals all by themselves.